Hello, welcome back to my channel, Books with AR. From beginning to end, Wang Lin never looked at the young woman. The young woman looked at the direction Wang Lin disappeared to with eyes filled with confusion. The Mai Liang from back then would constantly bug her. Even when she'd yell at him or hit him, he would just not stop. She and Mai Liang grew up in the same village. Their families were very close, and their parents set their marriage when they were kids. Later, the two of them were accepted into the war god shrine. The more she looked at Mai Liang, the more she'd see him as a country bumpkin, so she became very disgusted with him. They were already engaged, but she hid this very well. She used the engagement to trick Mai Liang into going into the Foreign Battleground. She told him that once he comes back, she would form a cultivation pair with him. But now, Mai Liang came back and completely ignored her. In regards to this, Zhu Si had a strange feeling in her heart. Adding on that sudden feeling that made her shiver, this huge contrast made her mind go blank. As for Wang Lin, he flew for a long time in this foreign country of Ho Fen. He stopped at a mountain range. According to Mai Liang's memories, this was a famous mountain range of volcanoes. Ho Fen got its name because of all the big and small volcanoes like this one. If they weren't being watched and sealed by cultivators, they would have already erupted. In the history of Ho Fen, there has never been a massive eruption of volcanoes. This has a lot to do with cultivators keeping them in check. After looking around, Wang Lin left and arrived outside a village. The village was currently very busy, and the children of the village were playing outside. Wang Lin felt a wave of pain in his heart. After a long time, he slowly walked into the village. He found some buckets in a deserted house. After filling them with water, he quickly flew away. After returning to the volcanoes, he found a natural cave. He immediately sealed the cave and used rocks to make defensive formations. Only after that did he sit down cross-legged and began to cultivate. After doing all of this, Wang Lin's face was completely pale. He had sustained heavy injuries in the Foreign Battleground, and his divine sense was completely shattered. He escaped with that sliver of G-realm divine sense, then, ignoring his injuries, used that sliver of G-realm so it would be easier for him to leave and recover. After he started cultivating, he took a deep breath, closed his eyes to nurture his soul, and his thoughts sank into his own consciousness. Wang Lin's sea of consciousness was a golden sea, but most of this sea was blocked by a gray fog. Only a very small portion wasn't covered by the gray fog. Thorns of black light were blocking out the gray fog. A 3-inch sword was standing there all by itself. Those thorns came from the sword. Upon closer inspection, there were deep cracks on the sword. On the other side of the sea of consciousness, there was a white space. Within it floated a gray bead. The gray fog didn't dare go within 10 feet of it. Inside Wang Lin's sea of consciousness, aside from those 2 points, everywhere else was covered in gray fog. Suddenly, the thick gray fog began to churn as a streak of red lightning flashed by. Wherever the lightning went, the gray fog backed away. Although Wang Lin's divine sense had completely collapsed, he was able to condense a sliver of G-realm divine sense. This was a type of divine sense, but the quality was much better than Wang Lin's previous divine sense. Although Wang Lin's divine sense was large, it was nothing compared to the law of the world. But just with a sliver of G-realm divine sense, he was able to resist the law of the world. That sliver of G-realm divine sense allowed him to escape. Its power was clearly not ordinary. This red lightning was that sliver of G-realm divine sense. Wherever the right lightning went, the gray fog moved out of its way. Even the golden ocean that was previously calm began to stir. The red lightning arrived next to the sword and entered it. The green sword immediately let out a hum and charged out, following the red lightning. The 2 rays of light charged through the fog, causing the golden ocean to stir. They arrived next to the bead. and the bead followed them as they charged out of the gray fog. Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes. His hands formed a seal and pressed it on his forehead. Suddenly, 2 lights shined from his forehead. Then a sword and bead appeared before him. Wang Lin didn't even look at them. He quickly closed his eyes again. His red lightning charged about his sea of consciousness for a while. After finding that nothing else was abnormal, it returned to the golden ocean. The gray fog covered the gaps, and then the entire sea of consciousness calmed down and returned to normal. In the depths of the golden ocean, the red lightning rested there as it slowly absorbed the energy from the ocean. Wang Lin could clearly feel that his G-realm divine sense was growing inside the golden ocean. Although it was slow, Wang Lin could feel that if he continued to be alive, then in tens of thousands of years, his soul would return to what it was before. If that day really comes, then even the law of the world would be nothing in his eyes. He could go in and out of the world of decay as he wished. Wang Lin pondered for a while as he looked at the 2 lights before him. He waved his hand, and 2 bags of holding appeared in his grasp. All of the magic treasures from the 3 bags he obtained were used to block the law of the world. As for the materials, he sorted them into 3 portions when he made the turtle shell formations. His divine sense entered a bag of holding. He took out a piece of black metal that was the size of his palm. This piece was clearly a piece of armor. Wang Lin pondered for a bit. His current weakness was that his knowledge of materials was really poor. Like right now, he had 2 bags full of materials, but he didn't know what to do with them. He felt helpless, as if he had entered a mountain filled with treasure, but didn't know what any of the treasures were. This piece of metal was one of the few things he knew about, a piece of refined iron. The reason he knew about refined iron was due to the secret exchange among the inner disciples back at the Heng Yue sect. He saw someone take out a piece that was the size of a niggle nail to trade as an important material for making flying swords. He put away the bag of holding and decided that once he finished cultivating, he would spend a lot of effort on getting information on materials. Wang Lin threw the refined iron into the air, and the flying sword moved and stabbed into it. A speck of green light peered out of the center of the refined iron. The green gradually spread until finally a beam of sword chi was shot out. Wang Lin bitterly smiled as he looked at the piece of iron. He was feeling depressed because he didn't know how to refine magic treasures. This was the most he could do. Then his thoughts moved, and that piece of refined iron quickly flashed and appeared behind him. However, the piece of refined iron was a lot smaller, and the edges were glowing red as liquid metal dripped to the ground. Wang Lin secretly let out a sigh. After the temperature of the refined iron lowered, he put it away in his bag of holding. Then he looked at the bead's image and felt a connection to his soul. He waved his hand. After the bead's image landed in his hand, it gradually became solid. The pattern on the bead was still 2 leaves. Without a word, Wang Lin brought out the buckets filled with water and dropped the bead inside. Moments later, Wang Lin took out the bead and drank the water. Suddenly, he felt spiritual energy enter his body, so he quickly took out the other 3 buckets and dipped the bead inside. Then he stared at the bead to see if he could still enter the dream space. When he arrived inside the dream space again, he looked at the familiar scene. Wang Lin pondered a little and quickly moved until he arrived at the place Situ Nan's Nascent Soul was in. Situ Nan's Nascent Soul was still there, but it had shrunk to less than 1/10 the size of a normal person. Compared to before, it was a heaven and earth difference. The Nascent Soul was very dim, looked sluggish, and his eyes were closed. Next to his Nascent Soul were 2 faint lights. Wang Lin shed 2 streams of tears as he kowtowed at the 2 lights. Then he sat down and brought out the 4 buckets. He downed a large gulp of water and began to cultivate. Wang Lin's body didn't have a sliver of cultivation, so he would have to cultivate all over again from the qi condensation stage. But whether it was Wang Lin or Mai Lang's body, both had already experienced the qi condensation stage. Thanks to that, Wang Lin was easily recovering his cultivation. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, 1 year had passed. Although it was 1 year, 7 years had passed inside the dream space. In this year's time, whether Wang Lin was inside the dream space or outside, he spent all of his time cultivating. He had only gone out several times in order to replenish his spirit water. In the 3rd year inside the dream space, Wang Lin reached the 15th layer of qi condensation. Then he spent 2 more years reaching the foundation establishment stage. In the last 1+ years, he finally recovered his cultivation and reached the mid-stage of foundation establishment. With just his Ji-Realm divine sense, Wang Lin was the natural enemy of all foundation establishment cultivators. Wang Lin was even confident in fighting against early-stage core formation cultivators after reaching the late stage of foundation establishment. Similarly, if he could form his core, then he would be the #1 cultivator in the cultivation union below the Nascent Soul. This is the power of the Ji-Realm. The relationship between the Ji-Realm and Wang Lin was like fish and water. Although the Ji-Realm is powerful, without any cultivation to back it up, it can't last. Only with increases in cultivation can the Ji-Realm grow stronger and last. The stronger your cultivation, the more of the Ji-Realm's power you can use. The current Wang Lin had completely fused with Mai Liang's body in these 7 years. There was no longer any discomfort. But the coldness coming from his body became even stronger. It was like a 10,000-year-old ice mountain that no one could melt. Renegade Immortal, Chapter 128, Burning Gold Mountain Range. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Books with AR. Wang Lin waved his right hand to open up the stone door and walked out. Currently, the sky was blue and clear for 10,000 kilometers. His body moved, and he flew to a nearby volcano. When he exited the dream space, his divine sense found a fluctuation of wood element inside the volcano. Shortly after, Wang Lin arrived at the mouth of the volcano and looked inside. Waves of heat floated up from inside the mouth. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he jumped in without any hesitation. He used the attraction force technique to control his descent. The Burning Gold Mountain Range was a famous mountain range in Haofen. As for why it was famous, it's because an alchemy material called the burning gold fruit grows here. This burning gold fruit is a key ingredient in making the soul harmony pill. The spiritual energy in the country is filled with the fire element. Absorbing the spiritual energy for a long time causes harm to the cultivators' bodies. So, because the soul harmony pill is a pill that can regulate the spiritual energy in the body, it is beloved by the cultivators here. It can be said that the soul harmony pill is the most consumed pill in Haofen. There are many different recipes for the soul harmony pill, and they all have varying degrees of effectiveness. The most popular recipe is the one that uses the burning gold fruit. This fruit only grows in the mouth of a volcano. It also only grows if it's in a range of volcanoes, not just a lone one. Every time the burning gold fruits are ripe, the 4 major sects sent out disciples to harvest them. This fruit is very strange. It can't be harvested early or late. It must be harvested in the 3-day period that it is ripe. On this day, the 4 sects had sent out their disciples early. Each of the sects had taken over one volcano. The 4 major sects had an agreement regarding this much-needed material, so there wasn't really any fighting over them. There were a total of 3 Corpse Sect disciples, 2 males and 1 female. They carried coffins behind them as they stood at a volcano opening, waiting for the right time to go in. Time slowly passed. Seeing that the other 3 volcanoes had green smoke leaking out, the other 3 sects jumped into their respective volcanoes. The 3 disciples of the Corpse Sect revealed confused expressions. The female frowned and said, "Senior apprentice brother Mai, do you know what is going on?" The male named Mai was also frowning as he said, "The green smoke means the burning gold fruit is ripe and ready to be harvested. The 4 volcanoes should be ripe at the exact same time. Senior brother Zhao, do you think we should go down and check?" The young man named Zhao pondered for a bit. Then he shook his head and said, "Let us wait for a bit. If the green smoke doesn't come out and dissolve the poisonous gas of the volcano, we will be in danger if we go down." Time slowly passed. Seeing the green smoke become even thicker at the other 3 volcanoes, the 3 disciples became impatient. The young man named Zhao clenched his teeth and said, Fine, let's go down and look. With that, he was about to jump down when a cold aura came from inside the volcano. Shortly after, a youth filled with coldness appeared as he flew out while carrying a purple vine as thick as a person. The vine was filled with burning gold fruits. This person was Wang Lin. After he appeared, he didn't even look at the three as he left. He had already noticed the three a while back, but he was having a headache figuring out how to take the fruit. Every time he pulled the fruit off the vine, it would be turned into dust by the heat. So he decided to just pull the entire root of the burning gold fruit out. However, what made him helpless was that he couldn't put this vine into his bag of holding, so he had to carry it. If it wasn't for the fact that he had great use for these wood element fruits, he wouldn't be bothering with all of this. The young man named Zhao swallowed hard as he stared at the vine on Wang Lin's shoulder. His expression changed many times. This was his third year here to harvest the fruit. At most, they would only take 10 fruits, because the root grew the fruits to be nutrients for itself. Only with enough fruits could the root survive. If too many fruits were taken, the root would die. If the root died, then there wouldn't be any more burning gold fruits appearing in this volcano. But this person had pulled out the entire root. Did this person not know that the root will die 2 hours after it's pulled? He was angry and saw that Wang Lin was only at the mid-stage of foundation establishment, yet he dared to ignore the three of them and was going to carry the root away. So he shouted, "Stop! I don't care what sect you are, you need to pay the price for destroying the root of the burning gold fruit." With that, he slapped the coffin behind him and suddenly stood straight. The lid of the coffin let out a creak as it moved a bit to the right, and a black hand came out. Slivers of black gas came from his finger, and a rotten stench immediately began to spread. The other two disciples of the sect behind Zhao both slapped their coffins. 2 more mummies jumped out, got in formation, and charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as a loud bang occurred in the golden ocean in his consciousness. The red lightning suddenly charged out through Wang Lin's eyes. The 3 Corpse Sect disciples' bodies shook, and their eyes dimmed as they died from having their souls destroyed. Then Wang Lin casually raised his head to look at the 3 corpse puppets. 2 of them immediately began to rot and turned into piles of white bones. Only Zhao's corpse puppet didn't take any damage. It suddenly stopped charging at Wang Lin. Its emotionless eyes shined a golden light as it looked at Wang Lin with a horrified expression. It quickly backed up and was about to escape. Wang Lin sneered in his heart and said, "Take 1 more step and you will die." Wang Lin's words fell on deaf ears as the corpse puppet covered itself in black gas and ran off. But then, the corpse puppet let out a miserable scream as a light flew out from its body. The light took the shape of a small person who bowed at Wang Lin and begged, "Fellow cultivator, please have mercy. I'm Zhu Li Guo, a discipline of the Tian Gang sect from a rank 4 cultivation country. Just now I have offended you, so I'll pay you back. If you need anything, we can talk. Please, don't be rash." This little person was already scared to death. He originally wanted to flee, but then he suddenly felt a destructive force enter his body. He felt a sense of danger, so he quickly escaped from the body. Although he was a Nascent Soul cultivator, he was heavily injured in a war. He managed to escape with his Nascent Soul, but he was so injured that his Nascent Soul was about to scatter. His close friends gathered up a large amount of wealth and bought him a body from the Corpse Sect. The bodies provided by the Corpse Sect were very famous in the rank 4 and 5 cultivation countries. All of them had very good talent, and their looks could be customized to the customer's preference. They even provided some of the weird cultivators with bodies of the opposite sex. As long as you can afford it, then you can find a satisfying answer at the Corpse Sect. More importantly, there would be no problems with the body, and if you're willing to pay extra, you can receive full protection during the possession process. In addition to that, the Corpse Sect's research into possession has reached a very high level. They can provide very detailed instructions to help the possessor in the process of possession. As long as you can pay the price, you can pick any body of any cultivation level. As we all know, for a Nascent Soul cultivator, the best body is another Nascent Soul cultivator. If you use a core formation body, then your cultivation will weaken greatly and will take a long time to recover. If you really can't afford it and can't even afford a core formation body, then you can only pay for the bargain bin priced foundation establishment bodies. Even if you're a nascent soul cultivator, it will take you a long time to recover your cultivation. Zhu Li Guo was one of those nascent soul cultivators that couldn't afford the price. If nascent soul bodies were the highest quality bodies the corpse sect could sell, then they wouldn't be a big deal. Nascent soul bodies aren't their main source of income. The perfect body for a soul formation cultivator is another soul formation cultivator. But the difficulty of obtaining a soul formation body in perfect condition is too high, and almost every soul formation expert has a large sect from a rank 5 cultivation country behind them, so they are not easily touched. But this problem can be solved by the corpse sect if you can pay the price. The body would be soul formation, but no matter how hard you look, you won't be able to find where that soul formation body came from. This is the corpse sect's greatest secret, and nobody knows the truth. There is even a rumor that the corpse sect can provide the only rank 6 cultivation country's top experts with matching bodies. This is a very powerful and mysterious sect. Each subsect's leader only knows that the main sect is inside a rank 5 cultivation country. But is the real headquarters really at a rank 5 cultivation country? No one knows the real answer to that question. But one thing is certain, no one would dare to mess with the corpse sect in rank 4 or above cultivation countries. As for rank 3 and below countries, as long as the sect is not wiped out, the corpse sect won't care. After all, this is only a farm for low-level bodies and the place where the business is occurring. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Books with AR. Wang Lin looked at the talkative Shu Li Guo. He was about to respond when his expression slightly changed as Zhu Gongsan's bag of holding flew into his hands. At the same time, he waved his hand and several fireballs flew out. They landed on the bodies of the corpse sect disciples and their corpse puppets, turning them into dust. Shortly after, he reached out and grabbed Shu Li Guo, who didn't dare resist. Then he disappeared into the sky, leaving a trail of rainbow-colored light. At this point, the disciples of the other 3 sects had already finished harvesting the burning gold fruits and were gone. Wang Lin returned to the cave and placed the burning gold fruits vine on the ground. He also threw Shu Li Guo forward, causing Shu Li Guo to panic and say, "Fellow cultivator, if there is any problem, we can talk about it. We can talk about it. As long as you don't kill me, I can agree to any request. I was wrong before. Please don't be angry." Shu Li Guo felt very wronged. He was a Nascent Soul expert, but he had lost his body, and his Nascent Soul was injured to the point of collapsing, causing his cultivation level to drop. In addition, he couldn't afford the high price of a Nascent Soul cultivator's body, so he thought about possessing a disciple of a sect, but if he was found out, it would lead to endless trouble. In the end, he decided to pay the corpse sect so he could possess a body without worry. But possessing a foundation establishment cultivator's body meant that it would take him a long time to recover his cultivation, almost as long as if he were to start over again. Right now, he only had the cultivation of a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. His Nascent Soul was just for show. It had no reasonable power. Also, with how dominating Wang Lin's G-Realm was, Shu Li Guo right now was a paper tiger. However, if Shu Li Guo was able to recover his strength to the core formation stage, then the result would be very different. Wang Lin completely ignored Shu Li Guo's plea for mercy as his eyes blinked and he moved a pillar to lock down the cave. Shu Li Guo secretly groaned as he slowly floated backwards into the wall. Wang Lin didn't stop him. He sent out his G-Realm Divine Sense, and the red lightning shot out. As the red lightning shot toward him, Shu Li Guo could feel the destructive power fill him. Wang Lin's right hand reached out and grabbed Shu Li Guo's Nascent Soul. Wang Lin stared at the Nascent Soul, and then his eyes suddenly lit up. When he first saw Shu Li Guo's Nascent Soul, he felt something familiar. He thought about it during the flight here, but couldn't recall where this feeling came from. When he looked at Xu Li Guo's Nascent Soul this time, he remembered. This Nascent Soul was similar to the wandering souls in the world of decay. Wang Lin rubbed his chin, and a thought appeared in his mind. If he could devour souls like back in the world of decay, then his G-Reum divine sense would become a lot more powerful. Also, wandering souls were very powerful. They were able to devour people's lives, regardless of their cultivation level. Once he gathers enough wandering souls in the living world, getting revenge on Tang Weian would be no problem. More importantly, Wang Lin knew that if he were to meet a core formation cultivator, he would run. But if he had a wandering soul, then he would have the power to protect himself. If there were enough wandering souls, then he would be willing to fight Nascent Soul cultivators. He knew that his own techniques were too simple. He only knew some minor techniques. And as for magic treasures, all he had was a flying sword. After experiencing the events in Zhao, Wang Lin's mind underwent a great change. Everything he was doing now was to make himself stronger so that his destiny would no longer be in someone else's control. Xu Liguo's Nascent Soul caused Wang Lin's heart to skip a beat as he thought of an idea. Since I can't bring the wandering souls out of the world of decay, can I make them here? Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He slapped his bag of holding and a piece of metal appeared. He pointed at the wall and the piece of metal carved out a cave. While doing this, Wang Lin used this moment to send his G-Reum to wipe out Xu Liguo's memories. Xu Liguo was, after all, a Nascent Soul expert, and even with his cultivation level lowered, Wang Lin had to use all of his G-Reum to barely succeed. Xu Liguo's Nascent Soul became a semi-transparent object with no consciousness. After the cave was finished, the piece of metal flew back into Wang Lin's bag of holding. Wang Lin waved his right hand and threw the Nascent Soul into the cave. He left a sliver of his G-Reum divine sense to guard the Nascent Soul before leaving the cave again. He searched through nearby mountains, catching small animals, as Xu Liguo's Nascent Soul just floated motionlessly in the cave. After returning, Wang Lin looked at the soul for a while, then threw a small animal toward it. The animal let out a shriek before running into the corner, completely oblivious of the soul in the middle of the cave. Wang Lin frowned as he watched the two. He strengthened the G-Reum guarding the cave before digging another cave on the side and throwing the remaining small animals inside. After finishing all of that, he slapped his forehead and the Heaven Defying Bead flew out. The bead circled him once before immediately diving into the burning gold fruit vine next to him. All of the fruits on the vine shrank and disappeared at a visible rate, and all of the wood element was absorbed by the stone bead. A third leaf slowly appeared on the stone bead, and after the vine completely shriveled, the third leaf became solid. A flash of happiness appeared on Wang Lin's face as he reached out and grabbed. The stone bead flew into his hand. He looked at the stone bead carefully before holding it up against his forehead. The bead quickly entered his body when it touched his forehead. Wang Lin took a deep breath. After pondering a little, he left the cave and ran toward the volcanoes. It took him 3 days to harvest all of the burning gold fruit vines in the area, making them extinct in this region. The Heaven-defying bead now had 5 leaves. 3 days later, Wang Lin looked into the small cave again and saw some pee and poop on the ground. The small animal was trembling in the corner. After digesting all the food it had eaten 3 days ago, it was now very weak. Xu Liguo's Nascent Soul was still floating in the air. If you looked closely, his Nascent Soul was even more transparent than it was before. It looked as if it could disappear at any time. Wang Lin pondered a little. He sent out his divine sense and drove the Nascent Soul toward the small animal. After a while, the Nascent Soul was above the small animal. Finally, the Nascent Soul had nowhere to hide and jumped at the small animal. Wang Lin became very focused as he saw the small animal shake violently. It got up from the ground with eyes emitting golden light, but the light soon dimmed and the animal fell to the ground. Just at that moment, Xu Liguo's Nascent Soul quickly flew out of the small animal's head and charged toward the wall. When it hit the wall, it let out a painful scream. Then it went and slammed against the other walls a few times until it finally just floated back and forth in the room. Wang Lin wasn't surprised. In fact, he was happy. He could clearly see that the nascent soul was no longer transparent and was filled with a hint of madness. He quickly threw all of the small animals he had caught 3 days ago into the cave and carefully observed. The moment the few small animals fell to the ground, they ran to the corners of the room with fear in their eyes and screamed non-stop. But what caused Wang Lin to frown was that the nascent soul ignored the small animals. The hint of madness disappeared, and the soul became confused again. Wang Lin pondered a little, then he used his G-realm divine sense to force the nascent soul onto another small animal. When the small animal died, the nascent soul charged out. Its eyes were filled with madness again. But the nascent soul still ignored the other small animals. Wang Lin snorted and used his G-realm divine sense to force the nascent soul to devour the other small animals. Now, the madness in the nascent soul's eyes was even stronger. Wang Lin pondered for a while, then went out. He caught a lot of beasts in the nearby mountains. He purposefully caught vicious beasts. There was even one that had a strange aura. After he returned to the cave, he made a few more rooms to separate the beasts. Then he carried a beast with bloodshot eyes that kept roaring at him and threw it into the room with the nascent soul. After being forced by the G-realm to devour the beast again, the madness in the nascent soul became even stronger. Wang Lin observed from outside the room for a long time. He didn't know if the nascent soul would turn into a wandering soul, a so-called devil, if he continued this. The truth is that the best way to test this was to capture cultivators to use as guinea pigs, but he was afraid of the nascent soul's cultivation level increasing after devouring a cultivator. If the nascent soul's power exceeded the power of the G-realm, Wang Lin would be in danger. Thus, unless he absolutely had to, he didn't want to risk using cultivators. 4 days later, aside from the animal with the strange aura, all of the other beasts he had caught had been devoured. Today, Wang Lin held that beast and threw it into the stone room. The nascent soul slowly forced by the G-realm to go toward the beast with the strange aura. Just as it was about to touch the beast, the nascent soul abruptly stopped itself from jumping on it and revealed a look of hesitation. Wang Lin's G-realm moved, forming red lightning and pressuring the nascent soul. Finally, the nascent soul entered the beast. For a long time, the beast trembled. Half an hour later, the beast exploded as a red soul escaped from its body and let out a roar. The shape of the nascent soul had completely changed and was glowing red. It was releasing a powerful aura that even Wang Lin could feel through his G-realm restrictions. As of now, this was no longer a soul, but a devil. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. After pondering for a while, he opened up the cave and walked inside. The devil suddenly turned his head and jumped at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes were cold as he looked at the devil. Red lightning shot out of his eyes, pushing the devil away, causing it to let out miserable groans. A vicious expression appeared on the devil's face as it jumped at Wang Lin again, but Wang Lin waved his hand and grabbed the devil. "You're courting death." Wang Lin's voice was cold, and his eyes flashed red. Every time his eyes flashed, the devil would shake. After a while, the vicious expression was replaced by a fearful one. In the end, the devil revealed a piteous expression. Wang Lin held the devil and exited the stone room. After arriving at the room he was using to cultivate, he tossed the devil into the air. The viciousness appeared on the devil's face again as he rushed toward the ceiling to escape. Wang Lin sneered in his heart as his G-realm divine sense quickly caught up and punished it. The devil let out a miserable groan as a thin line of smoke appeared on its body, and it visibly weakened. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out a piece of metal. Then he blandly said to the devil, "Hide inside here. You're not allowed to come unless I let you." The devil looked at Wang Lin with fear as it turned into a ray of red light and entered the piece of metal. After putting away the piece of metal, he regrettably looked at the cave. He exited the cave, waved his hand, and the cave collapsed in on itself. Wang Lin didn't look behind as he flew eastward. According to Mai Lang's memories, the War God Shrine was located in the east. Wang Lin had already decided. Since he couldn't find the location of Zhao in Mai Lang's memory, he would need to go check out the map that was in the War God Shrine's treasury. In addition to everything that had happened so far, his blood-refined small green sword was now just a piece of metal, and its power had greatly weakened. If he was against Foundation-established cultivators, he wouldn't need to use it. But if he was against a core formation cultivator, then this piece of metal would be able to save his life. So, he had to learn how to refine treasures. That was another reason he needed to return to the War God Shrine, because they have a refining house there. And in addition to all of that, he had to find a place of extreme yin, or he will be stuck at the mid-stage of Foundation establishment. Only with extreme yin can he form the third cold core and reach the late stage of Foundation establishment, and then form his core. Wang Lin decided not to give up cultivating the underworld ascension method. After all, C2 Nan told him that after he forms the 3 cold cores and fuses them, he will have a high chance of entering the core formation stage. When he was recovering his cultivation, because he didn't have any Ying spirit liquid, he could only cultivate the War God Shrine technique from Mai Ling's memory. But what interested him was the divine path. Although the spiritual energy from cultivating the divine path had no attribute, from an objective point of view, it was worse than his previous Ying spiritual energy. But the divine path of the War God Shrine was not without its benefits. If the Ying spiritual energy was like an invincible sword, then this cultivation was flexible as silk. The War God Shrine was located on a heaven-piercing mountain in the eastern part of Hothen. The mountain was shrouded by clouds and filled with spirit beasts. There were 4 sub-mountains that housed the 4 sub-sects of the War God Shrine. As one of the 4 head sects of the country of Hofen, the War God Shrine had more than 3,000 disciples. Even if you excluded the random outer sect disciples, there were still around 2,300 disciples. On this day, at a low, snowy peak 1 kilometer away from the War God Shrine, Zhu Zihong, Xianxia, and Lin Tao were waiting. 3 days ago, the 3 of them felt their souls shake as Wang Lin sent them a message via their soul blood essence. He told them to bring a few items. The appointed time had long passed, but the 3 of them didn't dare to leave. Among the 3 of them, Lin Tao was the most scared as he looked for words to say. Zhu Zihong looked dazed as she bit her red lips. Her mind was blank. Mai Lang had been gone for a year. She originally thought he would never appear again. However, when she got his message 3 days ago, her face immediately became pale. Xiangxia's expression was the most composed. Aside from lights flashing from his eyes every now and then, he looked the most normal. But upon closer inspection, his right hand formed a tight fist. Time slowly passed and night came, but Wang Lin hadn't appeared. The 3 of them looked at each other in confusion. At a mountain peak 2 kilometers away, Wang Lin coldly looked at the 3 of them. Since the upheaval in Zhao, Wang Lin had become very cautious. Although he had their soul blood essence, the 3 of them might be determined enough to fight to the death. Therefore, Wang Lin was waiting. If there was anything abnormal, then he would crush their soul blood essences and flee. At the same time, Wang Lin was also gauging their reactions. It has to be said that even if they were pretending, they couldn't do it for a long period of time. Among the 3 of them, Lin Tao's expression was the most normal. From the start, he had been scared and unsettled. Zhu Zihong had been in a daze the whole time. Confusion appeared on her face, despite her best efforts to hide it. After observing the 2 of them, Wang Lin focused his attention on Xianxia. This person's expression was really composed at the start, but as time passed, his expression became more unsettled. Wang Lin stared at Xia's right hand, and his eyes became cold. He pondered for a bit before quickly moving towards the 3 of them. In the blink of an eye, he suddenly appeared before them. A cold air spread out. After they saw Wang Lin, all three of their hearts trembled and all of their fatigue disappeared. In this past year, the various things that happened in the foreign battleground echoed in their dreams every night. They weren't really sure how powerful Wang Lin was, but the Mai Lang before them caused their hearts to tremble. They had a feeling that even if Wang Lin didn't have their soul blood essence, he could still kill them in an instant without them being able to protect themselves at all. This type of feeling reached its peak after Wang Lin coldly looked at them. Lin Tao was the first to hit his limit as he knelt to the ground and said, "Lin Tao greets master." Yang Xiang and Zhu Zihong weren't much better off either. They were just withstanding the aura by sheer force. Wang Lin withdrew his Ji-Ream divine sense, and only then did that sense of danger disappear. The three of them let out breaths of relief. Then Yang Xiang and Zhu Zihong bowed to greet Wang Lin. As they bowed, a trace of bitterness flashed across Yang Xiang's face as he clenched the Yade in his right hand. He came here with two thoughts in mind. One was to cheat Wang Lin to come back to the War God Shrine and ask the elders to help him steal back his soul blood essence. The other was if Wang Lin wasn't willing to go, then he would secretly emit his current location with the Yade. Back at the War God Shrine, his junior apprentice brother was holding another Yade. If he were to insert spiritual energy in this Yade, the Yade his junior apprentice brother was holding would light up, and his junior brother would call their master. But he now found out just how stupid his idea was. If he really did that, then he would have been the first one to die. This senior that possessed Mai Lang's body must have been a cultivator from a high-ranking cultivation country. How else could this senior, being only at the foundation establishment stage, have a divine sense that caused his heart to tremble? Yang Xiang secretly sighed and gave up any ideas of resisting. He took a deep breath and quickly slapped his bag of holding with his left hand, and then took out a Yade, and respectfully said to Wang Lin, "Master, I have gotten what you requested of me 3 days ago. This is the Yade from the refining house." After receiving the Yade, Wang Lin scanned it with his divine sense. Without showing any expression, he nodded. His gaze then fell on Lin Tao. Lin Tao's heart sped up, and he whispered, "Master, that map is placed at the top of the treasure palace. I can't go up there because my cultivation level isn't high enough." Seeing Wang Lin's deadpan face, Lin Tao clenched his teeth and said, 10 days. Master, just give me 10 days of time. By then, it will be my cousin's turn to patrol. I will at least be able to get him to make me a copy." Wang Lin looked at him, nodded, and then blandly said, "If you really manage to get it, then when I leave Ho Fen, I will return your soul blood essence to you." With that, he looked towards Yang Xiang. His eyes became cold, and he said, "Normally, I would have returned your soul blood essence to you, but the item in your hand voids your achievements. This time I won't kill you, but whether or not I return your soul blood essence to you will depend on next time." Yang Xiang's body shook, and his face immediately became pale. When he saw Wang Lin just now, especially because of the look in his eyes, he felt a strong sense of fear. He knelt on the ground and handed over the Yade in his right hand. His face was very tense. Wang Lin no longer looked at him. He now looked towards Zhu Zihong. Zhu Zihong clenched her teeth, raised her pretty face, and said, "Senior, that divine path is very strange. Although I saw it 6 months ago, I couldn't remember anything afterwards, so I can't make a copy of the Yade that contains the technique. Actually, Senior doesn't have to go through such a roundabout way. With Mai Lang's contribution in the foreign battleground, once you return to the sect, you will naturally be allowed to study it." The divine path was what interested Wang Lin the most from Mai Lang's memories. Mai Lang dreamed of studying it. For some reason, the War God Shrine was very strict when it came to its own disciples studying the divine path, but people outside the sect only had to pay spirit stones in appointed times in exchange for studying it. But for disciples of the War God Shrine, they must either have reached the core forming stage or have contributed greatly to the sect. Only after achieving one of these can they study it under the supervision of an elder. According to Wang Lin's analysis, this divine path must have something special about it. It could be that if someone at the Foundation establishment studied it, it would be dangerous without someone protecting them. When he asked Zhu Zihong to make a copy, he didn't plan it on succeeding, so he wasn't disappointed. He carefully looked at the three of them and gently said, "The three of you don't have to be so on guard near me. As long as you don't mess with me, then when I leave Ho Fen, I will return your soul blood essences. However, if you dare to plot against me, then don't blame me for being merciless." Renegade Immortal, Chapter 130. Sudden Arrival of Nascent Soul. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Books with AR. The three of you can return. Lin Tao, I'll wait for you here in 10 days. With that, Wang Lin's body floated backward and flew away in a rainbow-colored light. Lin Tao quickly responded and thought that once he got back, he would have to have a good talk with his cousin. This was a life-and-death situation, so no matter what, he had to get a copy of that map. Xianxia's clothes were soaked with cold sweat. The cold breeze blew on his body, causing him to shiver. Waves of coldness came from his heart as he knew that he had just walked past death's door. Zhao Zihong calmly looked at Xianxia and left. Wang Lin aimlessly flew in the sky as he pondered in his heart. Before long, his eyes lit up. No matter what, he couldn't go to this war god shrine, not to even mention that if any of those three were thinking of rebelling, the secrets he was holding right now couldn't be hidden from a Nascent Soul cultivator at all. It was very likely that the Nascent Soul ancestor had already used some strange method and figured out that he had possessed Mai Liang. Thinking about this, he suddenly felt a hint of fear as his face darkened and his speed increased. Wang Lin had already speculated this would happen, but Xiang's group's actions made him even more convinced. As he was flying, a gentle voice suddenly entered his ears. "Little friend, could you please return my disciple's soul essence blood?" This voice was very beautiful. It was very sweet to listen to. Wang Lin's body suddenly stopped. Before him, an enchanting woman walked toward him. The woman's steps were as light as the clouds, and each one created a rustling sound. She wore a blue court dress. The bottom half of the dress was covered in triangular emeralds. There was a belt around her waist, and from the belt extended many long ribbons. The court dress on this woman created a sense of intelligence and elegance. The woman was very beautiful. Without any makeup, there was a red glow on her face, and her skin was creamy white. As the woman walked forward, Wang Lin backed up to keep a constant distance between them. He put his hand on his bag of holding and coldly stared at her. Wang Lin's expression was the same as usual, but in his heart he was on full alert. This woman's cultivation level was something he couldn't see through. She was clearly a Nascent Soul cultivator. Wang Lin calmly looked at the woman and said, "Senior, what is the name of your disciple?" The woman revealed a gentle smile and replied with a soft voice, "My disciple's name is Zhou Zihong." Wang Lin nodded without any hesitation and decisively said, "Okay, once Junior is 1,000 kilometers away, I'll definitely send out the soul essence blood. Otherwise, even if Senior acts, I'll struggle to make sure the soul essence blood is destroyed." The woman looked at Wang Lin and said, "Little friend, don't be so nervous. I have already heard about you from Zihong. It was all thanks to your help that the three of them were able to safely return to the War God Shrine. Just with that, we can ignore you possessing Mai Liang. Ignoring everything else, because you saved Zihong, I can forgive you for everything that has happened." Wang Lin was startled and carefully looked at the woman's eyes. He saw that the woman didn't seem to be lying. Then he pondered a bit and said, "Please don't blame me, Senior. Please wait until Junior is 1,000 kilometers away before I return the soul essence blood." The woman raised her hand and made a pose that would shock any man's heart. She shook her head and laughed. 1,000 kilometers. I'll call you Mai Liang. Mai Liang, 1,000 kilometers is only a few breaths for me. If I wanted to kill you, then unless you could escape to 10,000 kilometers away, it would be pointless. Fine. If you insist, then go." Without a word, Wang Lin's body shot into the distance, leaving a trail of rainbow-colored light. Half an hour later, he had already traveled 3,000 kilometers. He stopped at the mouth of a volcano to catch his breath. After adjusting the spiritual energy in his body, he pointed at his forehead and a silver speck of light floated out. Wang Lin didn't even take another look at it as his body jumped into the air and he left. Along the way, Wang Lin wondered if what the woman said was true or false, but no matter what, it was not wise for Wang Lin to offend a nascent soul cultivator right now. Therefore, Wang Lin didn't hesitate to return Zhou Zihong's soul essence blood. A few minutes later, the woman's figure appeared at the mouth of the volcano where Wang Lin left Zhou Zihong's soul essence blood. She reached out with her right hand, and Zhou Zihong's soul essence blood quickly came to her. The woman looked at the speck of light and revealed a tender and loving expression. After carefully putting away the soul essence blood, she looked at the direction Wang Lin went and softly muttered to herself, "Seeing that you saved Hong-Er and readily returned her soul essence blood, I'll solve the issue of possession for you." For 2 days, aside from some necessary rest, he had been continuously flying. Because that woman had never appeared again, he relaxed a bit, but suddenly his eyes focused on the ground not far from him. Just at this moment, several sword lights flew toward him from the distance. After seeing Wang Lin, they quickly changed direction and headed toward him. When they arrived, 7 or 8 youngsters landed near Wang Lin. They looked at him with hostile gazes. Among these people, the most prominent was a young man in the front. The man's face was as white as yake. He looked very refined. His cultivation was at the late stage of foundation establishment and already at pre-core formation. He wore a purple robe and stood on top of a green flying sword, creating a sense of nobility. Beside him followed a girl dressed in red. There was a hint of red on her pale face, making people want to love her. The young man's eyes were cold as he looked towards the girl and whispered, "Wanner, is it him?" The girl looked at Wang Lin. She let out an apologetic smile and whispered to the young man, "Brother, it is not him. Although that person was good at the art of disguise, he couldn't fake this person's temperament." The coldness disappeared from the young man's eyes. He clasped his hands at Wang Lin and honestly said, "Please don't blame us, fellow cultivator. I'm Li Qiqing from the Lo-Hai sect. Please forgive our rudeness." Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he calmly said, "No problem. Since it is a misunderstanding, then how could I hold it against you?" Li Qiqing let out a laugh and said, "I believe fellow cultivator is here to attend the Ravine Workshop Assembly. Maybe we can meet again in the future, but I still have an important matter to attend to today, so I'll take my leave." With that, he clasped his hands again, grabbed the girl next to him, and left with the other 7 or 8 people. After they left, Wang Lin looked at the ground and moved forward without a word. Before long, he frowned. He took out the piece of metal from his bag of holding and smashed it into the ground. The piece of metal was very quick and hit the ground with a bang. Then, a very pathetic figure came out of the ground 20 meters away. This person's appearance was very normal, only his eyes contained a look of intelligence. He quickly raised his hand and shouted, "Fellow cultivator, this is a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding." As he spoke, he quickly looked around and jumped up. A flying sword came out and carried him to Wang Lin. "Fellow cultivator, I'm Sun Yu Chai. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't want to purposely follow you, but I had to. That girl from the Lo-Hai sect is looking for me, and since I can't beat them in a fight, I can only hide. They are still looking for me, but if I follow you, then that Li Qiqing won't be able to find me." Wang Lin looked at him. Then he flew forward and completely ignored the guy. Sun Yu Chai quickly followed him up and slyly asked, "Fellow cultivator, what sect are you from? I'm a disciple of the evil devil sect." Wang Lin's brow slightly furrowed. He didn't say a word as he used spiritual energy to move faster. His speed suddenly increased and left Sun Yu Chai behind. Sun Yu Chai looked at Wang Lin. He sneered in his heart, but his expression remained the same. He slapped both his legs and kicked off the ground. In the blink of an eye, he was next to Wang Lin again. He continued to say, Fellow cultivator, I'm really sorry about before. It is all that girl's fault. Ah, fellow cultivator, are you going to the ravine workshop, right? How about we go together? I know a lot of people in the area, and even buy a few key condensation females to use as furnaces. What speed? Wang Lin's heart moved as he turned to look at Sun Yuchai and smiled. Sun Yuchai saw the smile and suddenly felt his skin crawl. This feeling disappeared as soon as it appeared, and Sun Yuchai shook his head. He thought this person was only at the mid-stage of foundation establishment. With his late stage of foundation establishment cultivation, he couldn't be wrong. He slowly smiled and asked, "How about it, fellow cultivator?" Wang Lin sneered in his heart and decisively said, "Okay, then I'll bother Brother Sun." Sun Yuchai's heart shook. He didn't expect Wang Lin to agree this easily. He had a lot of words he was preparing to say, but now they were all pointless. However, his reaction was very quick. He smiled and said, "No problem. It was originally my fault for using fellow cultivator to hide. What is your name?" "My name is Mai Liang. I'm a disciple of the Warshan Shrine." Wang Lin faintly smiled. In Sun Yuchai's eyes, the smile was filled with naivety, but only Wang Lin knew the truth. Sun Yuchai let out a mischievous smile. He looked around and whispered, "Brother Mai, I heard your Warshan Shrine has a beauty named Zhou Ziwei. Our future lector saw her 6 months ago and was completely mesmerized by her. You're from the Warshan Shrine. Is she really that pretty?" Wang Lin was startled and asked, "Zhou Ziwei? Are you talking about Zhou Zihong, elder apprentice sister Zhou?" Sun Yuchai slapped his forehead and smiled. "Look at this memory of mine. That is right, it is Zhou Zihong. So, how does she look?" Wang Lin nodded and said, "Elder apprentice sister Zhou is indeed beautiful, but her personality is very cold, so I have only seen her a few times."